Hello and welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like it, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video, hit the bell icon. I see you're just sitting there. You haven't went to like the video or subscribe yet. Do it. Do it right now. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen the rest of the video. Hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. You better have done it, or I'm coming for you. Hello, and welcome to What If Deku Was Robocop, Part 1. So, where we would start. Everything would be, well, about the same in the story up until Deku's 4th birthday. All the kids would be outside while the parents would be huddled around the TV, watching the news. Deku and Kachan would be playing when Deku would throw the ball over towards the window. Kachan would say, "Aw, come on! Your window's all like nearly 20 feet away. How did you miss that badly, Deku?" As Deku would quickly start apologizing and would be told to go get it. Deku would run over to the window and would notice it's open. As he's grabbing the ball, he would hear something in the background, the TV. He would hear something about an OCP. They had just bought Tokyo's police station and surrounding city and towns police stations, along with setting up factories and etc. in Japan, in the Japanese area. Deku would not pay much mind to this. I mean, he's a kid, he doesn't know what an OCP is, and he would just move on with his day. Later that same day, Deku would be taken to the quirk doctor. This is what that following conversation would look like. Deku would have just been brought out of the testing room and would be sent down. Deku was super excited. He wanted to know if he had a quirk and what type it might end up being. He knew that nothing ended up happening in there, but he still thought that it was possible, and he was gripping that All Might toy as hard as he could. He was excited. The doctor would sit down, and he would set his notepad on the table next to him. He would turn off the slideshow that was previously playing, and would stare at the ground, knowing that this information was pretty hard to give them. Deku was excited, and he hated letting a kid down that much, but it was his job, and he had a right to know if he would have a quirk or not. He would raise his head and look at Inko. Inko could tell by the look in his eyes that the information that he was about to share was not good, and she would brace herself. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but your son, he's quirkless." Deku, he would be caught off guard, and he would ask the man to repeat that. And the man would say it again. "I'm sorry, son, but you're quirkless. You're quirkless." Deku would drop his All Might toy, and it would hit the ground with a loud thud. Inko would look very disappointed and upset by this fact. But Deku's face was just expressionless. No emotion left in it. He was sad. He wanted to be just like All Might, and yet he won't have a quirk. A small tear would roll down Deku's face, as Inko would get rid of the silence by saying, "You have to be wrong there. He has to have some kind of quirk, right? Right?" Hoping to get some hope for Deku. The doctor would shake his head, as he would say, "I'm sorry, but no. He is quirkless and will probably never get a quirk. No, he will never get a quirk. Your son is quirkless for the rest of his life." Inko would break into tears. She was sad by this fact, but she knew nothing could be done. Nothing could be done. She would levitate Deku's toy to her hand and would pick him up and bring him out to the car. Later that night, Deku would watch the All Might video on repeat, over and over and over. But this time, instead of coming into his room to comfort him, Inko wouldn't end up having that talk with Deku. She would be too depressed in her own way. Deku's dad had left the prior year, and Inko was really hoping that Deku could get a quirk. Things were already depressing enough in the household, with all the other kids in the neighborhood having already showed at least some signs of a quirk. And then with this, she knew Deku was going to be bullied horribly. Her job barely paid enough to keep food in the fridge, and she would grab a bottle of wine and would chug it, and would end up passing out on the couch. Everything else would be the same up until, I believe, the end of middle school. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comment section. I'm perfectly fine with seeing the many comments saying that I am wrong. But if someone already posted the comment saying that I'm wrong, just like that comment and get it up to the top, and I'll see it. Not everyone needs to correct me. Please, I don't want to be corrected by everyone. Alright, back to the video. It would be the end of middle school, or the final day of middle school. And, well, everything was going about the same. Deku would end up being found out as applying to UA, and Bakugo would not be happy about this at all. He would get up and slam his hand on Deku's desk. Everyone had already left the room. He would say, "What do you think you're doing going to UA? You're quirkless. You can't do anything. It's honestly appalling that you're the only other person. I mean, crap, I would have preferred Stretchy Eyeball Man over you. But no, the only quirkless kid in this entire school decides that he wants to go to UA with someone of the likes of me. I'm gonna be stronger than All Might. I couldn't possibly be appalled as to know that you applied to that school." Deku would keep his head down, trying to slowly move his notepad towards his lap. Bakugo would see it and grab the notepad out of Deku's hand. Deku would try and grab it back, but Bakugo would let off a small explosion, shoving Deku out of his chair. Bakugo would begin to read it, as he would say, "Oh, you're a stalker of heroes, huh? When I'm the #1 hero, are you gonna have a page dedicated to me?" Stalker boy, as he would blow up the notepad and throw it out the window. as he would tell Deku, "Just because you're quirkless doesn't mean it's hopeless for you. You could always take a swan dive off of the building and hit your poor little head onto the concrete and hope to be reincarnated into a better body that does have a quirk. But no matter what, it'll never be as good as mine." As he would punch Deku, knocking him to the ground, and would begin walking off. Deku would end up heading downstairs and grabbing his notebook out of the water. Deku was feeling insanely down. This is the worst it's ever been, and he just wanted to die. He wanted to be a hero so bad, but deep down he knew it wasn't possible. But on his way home, he would end up coming under an underpass. There, he would try and make himself feel better by practicing his All Might laugh. But then, he would stop. He heard something. Something that didn't sound quite right. He would look at the sewage drain and would see something pop out of it. The sewage drain tunnel's lid would end up popping out and hitting Deku on the head, knocking him out. And when Deku awoke, he would find this sludge creature trying to get inside of his body. Deku would try and scream, but his mouth was being clogged up by the sludge. As he would think to himself, "Is this really how I'm going to die? To some sludge creature?" And as he was about to pass out, he would see someone. "All Might?" he would think to himself as he passed out. He would awake to see All Might standing right in front of him, collecting the same sludge that was just inside of him. He would ask what happened, and All Might would laugh as he would say, "Don't worry, I handled it," as he would strike a heroic pose. Deku would begin fangirling as he would ask if he could sign his notebook. As he would look in his notebook and see that he had already signed it. He was so excited. And as All Might was about to jump off, Deku would run up to All Might and stop him from jumping. All Might would know that his time was about to run out, but would give the kid a second. As Deku would look very disappointed and depressed, as he would ask, "I'm quirkless, and I have to know. Is it possible for me to be a hero like you?" All Might would stare at his feet, as he would let out 3 words, or in 1 word, that would destroy Deku. "No." As he would jump off. Deku would be mortified, as he would fall to his knees. Deku, after that event, would end up enrolling in the police academy. He would end up going through years of training, and by the end of high school, Deku would have gotten, or passed, police academy. He would be the youngest police officer in Japanese history, along with one of the most dedicated. He had scored top of his class each year he was in the police academy, which was nearly about 4 to 5 years. Deku and his partner, which I'm going to call her Shiri, would end up being sent out to a very gang-ridden area of Tokyo. Deku would be trying to break the silence, as this was his first partner and his first mission. He was quite excited. They would end up getting to a highway when they would see a very suspicious bus. They would try and pull over the bus, but the bus would open up the back and begin shooting at them. Deku would call for backup, but no backup would be coming. They would follow the truck until it would reach its final destination, in which they would all run inside of the building. Deku and his partner would get out of their vehicle and run inside after them. They would begin searching the building, when Deku would come across 3 men trying to discuss what they should do next with the police hot on their trail. Deku would point his gun at them and would tell them, "Get on the ground now! Don't make any sudden movements!" As one of the men would try and grab a gun, Deku would put a bullet straight through his chest. The man would drop the gun and fall dead. Another man would try and grab a gun. Deku would shoot him. The third man would put his hands in the air. Deku would move to try and arrest the man, but would quickly notice 2 more men. Meanwhile, in Shiri's case, she would be searching the other side of the building and would hear the gunshots and would try and rush to Deku's aid, as all of a sudden she would be pushed off of a ledge, falling into a vat the crook thought might be acid. It was just water. But the impact from the height would end up knocking her out. Deku would drop his weapon and would put his hands in the air. The crooks would start moving down the stairs, and the other crook would grab Deku's gun and point it at him. Deku would be backed into a corner. As the men would start making fun of Deku for being in the police force, and would ask him, "What's your quirk, loser? Huh? Tell us, pig, what's your quirk?" Deku would reply, "I don't have one." As their leader would walk out and would say, "Oh, I know who you are. Aren't you the youngest police officer in Tokyo, Japan's history? Wow, what a surprise, and also what a welcome one. We get to kill one of the most dedicated and youngest officers in Japan's history. How fun." He would put a bullet through Deku's kneecap. Deku would fall to the ground in agony, screaming as loud as he possibly could. The men would begin beating Deku senselessly, as the other man who had pushed Shiri into the vat would come into the room smirkly. The leader would ask, "What are you so happy about?" As the man would say, "Oh, you know his little girlfriend, Piggy? Well, I pushed her into a nice vat. She's gonna be taking a nice dirt nap for a little while." As all the men would start laughing, as the leader would put his gun to Deku's chin and would say, "Doesn't that just make you mad? That your little girlfriend is dead?" Deku would try and punch the man, but one of the other guys, who was using a shotgun, would blow Deku's hand off before it even hit him. Deku would scream in utter pain as he would look at his hand and would begin crying. He would wish and wish that All Might didn't say those words on that day. That he didn't just go straight home. That All Might did something, said something, so that he would continue on his heroic path. But no, he went into the police force and now he's gonna die a painful death in some random abandoned building at the ripe age of 17. Deku would be mortified and would be in such agonizing pain, screaming senselessly, as one of the guys would have enough of Deku screaming and grab a knife and would cut Deku's tongue out. And then curb stomp his face into a trash can. Deku was scared. And he was in so much pain, and yet he couldn't scream. He couldn't even talk. As the leader would eventually have enough of this, and would tell his men to take aim, Shuri would finally wake up, and would try and get in contact with Deku, when all of a sudden, bang, 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 she could hear gunshots. She would quickly climb out of the vat and begin running towards the gunshots when she would get stopped by a barrier. She would hear Deku's groans and attempts at a scream. And she would try and get through the barrier, but she couldn't. All she could do is watch as all 4 men would litter Deku with gunshots. Normally, a person would die after about a few hundred bullets would be fired into them. But due to Deku's top-of-the-line police armor, supplied by OCP, he would live through this. The gang leader wouldn't be very happy about the fact that he survived that, and would grab one of the other members' guns, which had ammo, and would put a bullet into Deku's head, killing him. As all the members would start cheerfully exiting the building, Shuri would find a way to get to Deku, and she would be mortified by what she saw. Deku was missing a hand, had a few hundred bullets in him, had his tongue cut out. She was horrified. She would immediately call for an air evac, as an ambulance wouldn't be quick enough, and for backup. OCP had recently started a secret project, and Deku was soon to become the prime candidate. Deku would end up being put on the airlift, and the airlift, instead of heading to the hospital, would head towards OCP laboratories. Deku would end up being worked on, getting the most prestigious and high-tech advancements in the world. Deku would awake to see scientists and police watching from another room, as a man would walk in and would ask Deku what his prime directives are. Deku would say, Directive 1, serve the public trust. Directive 2, protect the innocent. Directive 3, uphold the law. Directive 4, classified. The man would laugh as he would tell Deku to stand. Deku would break the restraints and would stand up. The man would tell Deku to walk. Deku would begin walking. But Deku had this thought in his head. What was I before this? Who was I? He had no previous recollection of his prior life or his death. He thought he was just a machine. Nothing more than that. The man would then order Deku to the shooting range. Deku would then head to the shooting range, having to go through a busy corridor to get there. All of the police in the corridor would just be in awe of Deku. He was so slick, and he looked awesome. He looked so futuristic, and all of the police wanted to be like him. I mean, he was awesome looking. One of the men would touch Deku and feel the armor that was encoding Deku. Deku would slap the man and would grab him by the neck, pinning him to the wall, as Deku would say, "I should arrest you for assaulting a police officer." As the man would tell, or the scientist man would tell Deku to put the man down, as he would apologize to the officer and say, "There still might be a few kinks left in the system, but they should clear out with the first update." Deku would then continue on his way to the shooting range. Once Deku got to the shooting range, he would see 5 targets, all lined up. 5 dummy targets. And the man would tell Deku, "Alright, take out all 4 of those targets." Deku would quickly pull out his Auto 9 that has a magazine of 50 rounds, and it's a standard 3-round burst. Deku would pull out the gun and would take out all 5 targets within 1 second. The police in the room would be in total shock. He just took out 5 targets in 1 second. He didn't have a full auto, and yet he was still able to take them out, all out in 1 second. With pinpoint accuracy, too. Not like barely scraping the barrel, hitting it. All of them were dead in the center. Right where the person's heart would be. They would be in awe. As the man would quickly shut off the lights, and the dummies would be replaced, and 4 more would be added. As the man would order Deku once more, take out the dummies. Deku would activate his infrared, and would see that each of the dummies are outlined with a heat source. Deku would take out all 9 of them. Yeah, all 9. Within 2 seconds. They would turn back on the lights. Each shot was hit with pinpoint accuracy, and all of them were on the ground. Deku would spin the pistol on his finger and then put it back into his thigh plate, where it houses his gun. The man would then say, "I think he's ready," as he would order Deku to go out on patrol. Deku would oblige, not even feeling the slightest bit of hesitation. He doesn't remember at all what happened. All he knows is that he has one job to do: protect the law. Deku would get in his cruiser and go out on patrol. When, over police chatter, he would hear about a robbery turned hostage situation, 4 suspected individuals. Deku would arrive before any other cop, and Deku would use his infrared to see how many civilians and crooks there were. He would find that there was 1 downstairs watching the civilians, and then 4 upstairs looting the building. Or no, not 4, 3 upstairs looting the building. Deku would just walk inside. No hesitation. The man would be startled and would shoot off his full auto gun straight into Deku, each round hitting Deku. Not a single shot would be missed. And the man would be in shock. Deku would have taken each bullet without there being even a scrape on his armor. The man would then pull out his pistol and attempt to aim towards Deku's head, when all of a sudden he would feel a bullet in his chest. He would look down to see blood, a blood stain, and right where his heart would be, he would look back up at Deku to see that Deku had already shot him, as the man would fall backwards. All the hostages would quickly begin running as Deku would look directly up and then would jump through the ground, grabbing one of the guys by their necks, smashing them through the wall, and then throwing them at another guy. Then Deku would pull out his Auto 9, shoot both of the men while they were sitting on top of them, basically getting a two-bird, one-stone scenario, killing both of them with one bullet. Another guy would begin opening fire onto Deku when Deku would aim at a metal bucket and then would pull the trigger. The shooting would stop. Deku would turn around to see that his calculation was correct. The bullet ricocheted off of the metal and hit the man directly in the head. Deku would drop down through the hole he had created and would walk outside, get in his car, and drive off.